Hello and welcome, Inspired Podcast community. This is your new episode. My name is Caroline, and my today's guest is Charles Reed. And I did not ask you how to pronounce your name. I hope it is right.
You got it right.
Thank you so much for saying yes to our interview today. And of course, I would love to introduce you to the audience first. So, you are a certified public accountant, US tax court practitioner, Vietnam veteran, and the founder of Get Payroll. Welcome to the Inspired Podcast, Charles Reed.
That's me.
I hope
Pleasure to
it's
be
you.
here.
I hope I
Thank you
did.
for having me.
Thank you for saying yes. I did not mix up the bios. And my first question to you is, of course, how has your experience as a Vietnam veteran influenced your approach to leadership and business with Get Payroll?
Well, the Marine Corps teaches you a lot of things. They teach leadership, they teach discipline, they teach mission accomplishment, and all those things, frankly, help in business. A lot of people who hire in business today don't realize what the experience of being in the service brings to the table, and that's too bad because it's if they haven't been there, they don't understand. But the Marine Corps teaches leadership, and one of the mantras is mission men self, which means you accomplish the mission whatever it takes. Then you take care of your men, and then you take care of yourself. So in business, you get the job done. Our job is to deliver a perfect payroll on time, every time. That's our mission. And we complete that all the time, whenever possible, and do whatever it takes to make that happen, which makes our clients happy. Then I take care of my people, both my clients and my employees, because without my employees, I have no business. Without my clients, I have no revenue. So they are far more important in the scheme of things than I am. Okay, the business will survive. When I go on vacation, the business does just fine. When my wife had her stroke and was in the hospital for several months, I frankly didn't work, and the business continued to grow and prosper because I have great employees. So only after you've taken care of your people do you worry about yourself, and that's a distinction that a lot of people who own businesses don't make. They put themselves first, and that's one of the reasons why many businesses fail.
So they put themselves first. How does this look like? And how does it look like when you don't do this, when you follow your advice?
Well, you take all the money, you don't hand out bonuses, you don't hand out raises, you don't give them the tools they need, you don't give them the facilities they need. Your real job as CEO is to make your employees as efficient as possible and as happy as possible. That means you don't deny them tools, you don't deny them training, you don't deny them time off. For instance, our bereavement policy is whatever you need. In other words, if standard in corporate world is 3 days. Well, my head of HR and does a bunch of things for me, a young lady. Her father died, and she was the one in the family that it all fell on. And it took her almost 3 weeks. Funeral, family, will, bank account, all the things that go with a death. She's been with me years. So she needs 3 weeks. So what? I just pay her. The thought of trying to have to replace her because she took an extra couple of weeks that I didn't want to give her, you got to be joking. The cost of that 2 weeks is nothing compared to the loss of institutional knowledge, the cost of hiring somebody new and getting them trained up. That's not an issue. So arbitrary things like that that are to the detriment of your employees are stupid. Now, if you don't trust your employees, well, don't have them. Find somebody else. Okay? If you don't trust your employees to do what's best for the company and for you and for them, uh, in not necessarily in that order, uh, but to do the best they can for the company, then get rid of them and find somebody that will. That's just common sense. So yeah, you can really damage your business by not treating your people well, playing politics in the office, causing dissension, favoring people. There's a million ways to go wrong, and many more ways to go wrong than right.
Yes, that's so true what you said, and also about the trust. And I think when people, or let's say employers, don't trust their employees, then it's because they don't trust themselves. How about
Of
that?
course, it's they're projecting their own insecurities on their staff, and they need to go seek a therapist and get some help.
Yes, of course. I totally agree with that. Yes. Okay. My next question to you, as both a CPA and US tax court practitioner, what are the most common payroll mistakes businesses make and how can they avoid them?
Okay, there's five common mistakes. The single biggest error that the IRS comes across and penalizes employers for is arithmetic. They don't add, they don't multiply, they don't divide properly.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yes.
And in this day and age with computers, there's no excuse for that. That's people who are still doing it by hand. Don't use a computer. Okay. Then they they don't know what forms they need to file, and they don't know when to file them. So uh, you get into business, you don't know a lot of things. Check with somebody who does. Check with your CPA. Check with the IRS. Check with the state. Talk to people. Find out what you need to know, what you need to file, and when you need to file it. Because if you file it a day late, there's a penalty.
Mm.
The next two are what you need to pay and when and where you need to pay it. If you deposit money wrong in the wrong time the wrong time or the wrong place, there's a penalty. There's a penalty for everything. So make sure all your numbers are right. Know what you need to file and when you need to file, when and where you need to file it, what you need to pay, and when and where to pay it. That will eliminate 95% of the penalties. Now, the IRS makes mistakes. There are 100,000 civil servants, and some of the technology goes back to the 1960s. Stuff happens. During COVID, lots of things got lost, misplaced, rained on, all kinds of things. The problems still are going on. We're still dealing with errors that the IRS self inflicted. But the IRS never thinks an error is their problem, it's always the business owner's problem. So when you get a penalty and it's not valid, you have to appeal, 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 and appeal. And sooner or later, you'll get somebody to look at it, hopefully, and agree with you, and it goes away. That's one of the reasons I became a U.S. tax court practitioner, is I can then take these to, if I exhaust all the appeals, the administrative appeals, I can then for $60 file a petition with the U.S. tax court and get a whole nother bite at the apple. Because the first thing that happens when you send it to file a petition is it goes to what's called docketed appeals, and you get a much more experienced appeal officer and an attorney, IRS attorney, to look at this. And we have things, I have one right now that I just recently filed a petition on. Excuse me. It's a 2016 civil penalty where they said the W-2s were not filed timely. We have the receipt from the Internal Revenue Service saying that they received them on a timely basis. We have sent that to the IRS in response to their penalty letters repeatedly, and they ignore it. Well, the judge won't. If I go into the courtroom with that and enter that as evidence, the judge is going to look at that and he's going to dismiss the case. Period. That's all there is to it. I have absolute proof that we did what we were supposed to do and what they're saying we didn't do. But the IRS won't look at it. We sent it to them repeatedly, and I don't know why, but they're not accepting it. So when it gets to the IRS attorney, he's going to look at that and go, I'm not going to court with this. I'm going to look like an idiot. And he's going to just make it go away. So that's the power of being a U.S. tax court practitioner, is a whole nother bite at the apple with much more sophisticated and knowledgeable people.
I love that. And I also love so your experience, your knowledge, your wisdom, the combination of the two and how it fits together. Thank you so much for sharing. Of course, I have another question for you, and it is, what inspired you to start Get Payroll, and how has the company evolved over time to meet the needs of modern businesses?
Well, after service, I went to college, got my BBA, my MBA, sat for and passed my CPA exam while I was still in college. Went to work in the corporate world. That's what you do, right?
Yeah.
Spent 15 years in the corporate world. Lots of great experience. Big corporations, small corporations, turnaround, startups. Wonderful experience. I realized I was never going to get to the top of a big company because I don't have the political skills. I'm unwilling to stab people in the back and toss them off the ladder. So if I was going to run a business, it'd have to be my own. I grew up in a family business, so I've seen how it was done. So in 1991, the wife and I started our business. I basically hung up my shingle as a CPA. We did payroll as a sideline, and we serviced clients. We grew and continue to grow. My wife worked for me for a number of years, and then she went to build the house, and I hired other people, and we continued to grow. About a dozen years ago, I sold off the accounting portion of it to my partner who I'd taken on and kept just the payroll. And we've continued to grow and modernize that. But technology has changed, software has changed, hardware has changed, the world has changed, the law has changed, the IRS has changed. Everything continues to change, and we have to keep on top of that and be as proactive as possible. We had the first green payroll back in the 90s. We had the first service bureau that was providing cyber payroll, crypto payroll for clients. So if their employees want to be paid in cryptocurrency, we could handle that for them. So most of the payrolls used to be done manually. Now they're all electronic, almost exclusively. Yet we retain the ability, if a client calls us and says, hey, I got stuck in Timbuktu and I can't get back to the office to enter payroll, but I need everybody paid, we can handle that. Just tell us what you want them to pay, or pay what we did last time, or whatever, and we'll see to it that they get paid, even though you're stuck on the beaches in Hawaii, okay? So we do whatever it takes to take care of our clients. We're a great believer in customer service. That's how I grew up. And, one of my favorite sayings is there's never a traffic jam on the extra mile. If you go the extra mile for your clients, your competitors won't, and you'll stand out.
Wow, I never heard this before, but I love it. Of course, I know the concept of the extra mile from or by Napoleon Hill, our business Bible, Think and Grow Rich. I study it every day, but there's never a traffic jam on the extra mile. Brilliant. Thank you so much for sharing.
My pleasure.
So how about your goals? Do you set goals for yourself or intentions? And what is one of your next projects?
I keep to-do lists all the time. I think that's, important, and I think you need to measure your goal completion because you achieve what you measure. Okay, if you have uh, goals that are, you know, not set in stone, not concrete, then you'll never know whether you reach them or not. So you set goals for revenue, for payrolls completed, for days worked, whatever. Set them, keep them in front of you, live by them, try to achieve them, and then set bigger goals. My biggest goal, and I set this as my New Year's resolution a number of years ago, was to simplify my life. Uh, and I reset it as my goal every year, and I fail miserably at it. So, uh, though I think I'm beginning to succeed finally. Uh, but yeah, you have to have goals, and you have to measure them, and you have to continually update them. Uh, that's how you get ahead. If you don't know where you want to be, how will you know when you get there?
Yes. If you don't feed the GPS with the destination, you you never get there, right? You
Then,
always
then, then anywhere is fine, right?
yes, doesn't exist. So thank you so much for our interview. Where can we find you when people want to reach out to you after listening to this episode?
Uh, getpayroll.com, all over the internet. My email is cjr@getpayroll. And if they need a quick question, 972-353-0000.
Oh, I love that. I have to save this in my mobile phone. Thank you so much for our interview. And now, of course, it's time for your final thoughts to the audience, please.
Well, when you're in business, you have to realize that it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. And Bill Gates said this years ago, and something I really believe in is people will overestimate what they can accomplish in a year and underestimate what they can accomplish in a decade. You'll be amazed. Just keep going one foot after the other, one step after the other, and you'll be amazed at what you can accomplish over the years.
This is the best message. Thank you so much. I'm impressed now. I have to re listen to it again. There were so many nuggets. Thank you, thank you, thank you, Charles J. Reed.
My pleasure.
And see you in the next episode.